Hello and welcome to Bedson and Coffey, Unfiltered,
where we will be discussing fitness, lifestyle, healthy eating habits, relationships, gas station performance pills, answering romantic queries. You have anything else, Tyler? Is there anything? Do you need help with anything right now? Because I feel like I'm in a position where I can help you with it.
I mean, and everything else that we come across as we go. But you know what it's going to be, right?
It's going to be unfiltered. I think you should cut the back of it just so that it'll slide away.
Sit here the whole time like this.
Like this.
We have every video. I'm just like,
that'll be good.
All right.
But yeah.
Yeah. So, have you seen any good movies lately?
I haven't actually.
So I go on these spells. Like me and Laura will, go see 3 or 4 movies.
I love going movies, but I just haven't seen.
And then we won't go see any for like months. But we've seen some recently. One I did want to mention that was actually pretty good. It was called Late Night with the Devil.
Late Night with the Devil.
Yeah.
Is this something that
it's like
the younger viewers can see? I mean, it's.
I don't know what it's rated. It was kind of.
You see, this is
demonic
in the cinema.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so pretty much the concept is it's like a found footage film of a dude.
Oh, gotcha.
And he has his own talk show, but it's starting to fail. So he's trying to bring back the ratings up. So he brings on a guy that can like do clairvoyance, and then he has a woman that found a girl that was in a satanic church that did rituals where all the people burned themselves alive, but she survived. So she somehow is like possessed by this demon.
There you go.
So he brings them on the show and they make her do a demonstration to prove that, like, to this other guy that thinks everything's fake, that demonic possession is real.
If we could do that here, if we could get somebody on here that was like that. Honestly, if there's anybody out there listening,
yeah, we know
contact Tyler, first of all, not me.
Yeah, I'll set this up. Like, I'm pretty good at talking to those kind of people. Like if you are a psychic or some kind of wizard, anything of the sort.
Wizard would be good.
Oh, there's
dressed as a wizard. Like, I don't want you coming in wearing like khakis. If you're a wizard, come in dressed.
Full on Gandalf, robes, everything. Like, I want like a little hat that has eyes on it, anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be good.
I think we could have a good episode with that. Oh, that reminds me. What's that one dude that told everybody he'd give everybody a pony if he wins the election? He wears a boot on his head.
I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
I got to look up his name real quick. He's a politician.
Are you sure? Is there a gas leak in this fucking place?
Politician with boot on his head. I'm guaranteeing you.
Yeah.
With boot on head.
Folks, I apologize. He takes these spells from time to time. We just roll with it.
So his name's Supreme Berman.
Jesus Christ, what the fuck are you even talking about?
Okay, so there's this guy, and he's a politician. He like runs for like Congress or like, I don't know what he runs for in his like hometown. I don't know. He might be I think he's from like Vermont. That sounds right. But he wears a boot on his head. He's got like this big,
like an actual,
I got to show you a picture of this just so you can see. Anybody that's listening, please Google this. His name is Supreme Vermin. That's no shit.
that's his given name.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I said his name. It's a Vermin Supreme. But look at this dude. This guy is a politician. That's a real person. And he part of his promises, if you elect him, is he's going to give everybody a free pony.
Yeah.
So, I imagine the national debt would go up quite a bit with that.
I would still bet he's got a higher IQ than Joe Biden.
I could see that. Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
He's
an interesting fellow.
Well, yeah. I mean, all politicians, I feel like are. Like, I feel like if you want to get into politics, like, you really got to like hate yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or would you really love yourself?
Maybe it's like
I am the shit.
It sounds like
these people love me. They're going to vote for me.
Yeah, I guess so. You got to have like an ego complex almost
to a point.
Yeah,
especially to get to further yourself in politics.
Yeah, especially to wear a boot on your head while doing it.
Now that's just big dick energy.
Yeah, that's like honestly, like if it came down to it, post-apocalyptic type like shit, that dude wearing a boot on his head.
If we're picking teams, I'm Vireman, you're with us. Come on.
Vermin Supreme.
Let's go, big dog.
So, Eli, what are we talking about today, man?
We are going to discuss, we had some questions. Some people reached out to the podcast and had asked some questions about my shoulder surgeries. Some people actually looking at possibly having surgeries. And we discussed actually talking about some injuries in general, things that we'll face. Sometimes in prep, maybe overreaching a little bit, injuries we might face, training sick, lots of different stuff. So,
yeah. Well, my question is for you. You know, you're the one with multiple surgeries. I'm, lucky enough to not have anything.
Hope you never do, my brother.
Just yet. I've been trying to stay ahead of it, mostly because I've learned from people like you, and you've kind of told me, like, when I'm starting to feel any of that type of stuff, to address it now rather than waiting till later.
Thank you. Yes.
And that has actually taught me to do so. But what do you think caused yours? Do you think you could have done anything differently, or do you think you could have prevented them with your knowledge now?
So in all seriousness, a lot of my issue was actually genetic.
Okay.
I didn't know that until recently. I just met my father in 2021, and I met my brother, both of whom have shoulder issues too. Some arthritic issues. My mother never did, so I had no idea.
Yeah.
But that made more sense of what I was dealing with. I started having arthritic issues as a teenager and was diagnosed with osteoarthritis about that time, late teens, early 20s. And for those of you that aren't familiar with it, osteoarthritis is where you actually continue to have bone growth in the joint.
Yeah.
Like the head of the humerus on my shoulders were huge, like to the point that it actually pushed it back in the joint, like it was too big for the fossa.
Ooh.
And it created like a dual concavity. Like, so instead of having like this, one, cup here, it's almost like a W. It actually pushed it back and was wearing, and that's why I couldn't get my arms back. So was because it was actually being blocked by the bone.
For people that didn't know, because I always ask a question, they're like, Eli, with the size he has, the muscle he has, why isn't he competing in classic or bodybuilding?
I got that all the time.
Yeah, and I'd have to explain it to people nonstop. I'd be like, well, he can't get his shoulders externally rotated to do a back double bicep.
Yeah.
So without that pose, you can't really win anything, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you've kind of went across the process now, realizing you needed to get that fixed.
Well, it was for the longest time. I realized that I wanted to get it fixed.
Yeah.
Until recently, there wasn't an option that would allow me to continue to have any kind of life as I do now.
Yeah, continue to do fitness.
Yeah, so I went to, I think it was like 2016 or 17. I think it was I was in prep for the Kentucky Open. And I had went and seen the Kentucky orthopedic team at UK. And they're like, yeah, dude. And the doctor walks in after having seen my x-rays, and he kind of just looks at me. And he said, I wasn't expecting you sitting there. And I said, yeah. He said, I was expecting a much older man in far less shape. And he said, you have the joints of a man far older than yourself. And he said, there's really nothing at this point except just continue doing what you're doing. He said, obviously you're able to maintain some muscle mass here. He said, so just continue doing what you're doing. But he said, you just need replacements.
Okay.
And I said, okay. At the time I wasn't as educated on that. So I was like, well, what's that entail? And he's like, well, you won't be able to lift more than 25 pounds and so on and so on. Because at that time when I spoke to him, what he referenced was what they used to do. They would actually hollow out the humerus, drive a stem into it, attach the ball to that stem, plane down the glenoid fossa, do an onlay. And then that ball would sit in that onlay. And then later, that's kind of progressed to, instead of a load-bearing device, a load-sharing device where they do an inlay in the fossa. And then now they actually have a stemless, where they don't actually hollow out the humerus anymore. They just put it on the end. And that's what I got. And then for the glenoid, they actually did what's called a ream and run procedure.
Yeah.
So the whole thing, orthopedic surgery is a lot like carpentry, man. It is not a delicate procedure. It is very aggressive. And when you watch the videos, it's kind of unsettling if you've never seen it. But they actually, so to what they done with both of my shoulders was the arthritic issues had gotten to the point that they couldn't do like a debridement where they cut the spurs off or anything. So it actually came down to actually having to have a full replacement in both shoulders. Mm-hmm. So they open up right about the front delt, and they go in, they detach the supraspinatus tendon,
and they pin it back, and then they actually remove the humerus from the socket. So they pop your arm out.
Yeah.
And then he'll take what looks like a reciprocating saw and just cut the head off of the humerus. And then they drill a hole in the end of that. They plant like this. It looks like a nut, and it's like a little cage so that they can attach the ball to that. And then he reamed out the glenoid, resurfaced it. And it almost looks just like a countersink on a drill. And they kind of really just go in and they kind of ream that out and clean that up to give that ball a place to sit. And there's a period of time there where they have to kind of remarry and kind of seat. But, they did that on both sides. And this is, I'm not sure when this episode will air, but right now we're at the end of March. So I'm sitting about 11 months out from the right side and about 6 months out from the left. And, they did both of them last year. So I've got more range of motion now than I've had, in almost 20 years.
Yeah.
I squatted with a straight bar this past week for the first time in 18, 19 years. Like I haven't been able to get a barbell on my back. Like a lot of people would see me squat with a safety bar. And, as far as strength, I always did pretty well.
Yeah.
And they would ask
up at 405 already?
Yeah, I've been working out with 405 with a straight bar. But they would say, why don't you do full power in a meet or something? It's like, well, dude, I can't get my hands on the bar, and they won't let me squat with anything else. So that was the thing there, was not being able to squat with a straight bar. So anytime I did any kind of powerlifting, I would just do bench or push pull. But yeah, it sounds kind of simple. It sounds like not a big deal, but when you haven't been able to do that in 18, 19 years, I remember, I don't think some people realize the lack of range of motion that I had, but whenever I done the WBFF show in Boston, we had to wear a suit for the awards. And I had to have help putting my suit on, and I couldn't fix my collar. I couldn't reach it. So yeah, the Expediters. So here I am, the overall winner of this show. Like I've won everything. I went pro, all this, and I'm backstage having to get an Expediter to help me put my coat on because I can't. Yeah.
And now that you've been having these surgeries, what I think a lot of people want to know is, how do you think you should go about things when you have these recovery processes? I have a lot of people, and they'll have an injury and they think, oh, I should just do nothing. I need to take time off. Like I need to quit dieting and quit training completely. But in reality, I think that's when you need to be more meticulous about your work, your recovery efforts, going through your physical therapy, and making sure you get back as soon as possible, as well as maybe even throwing in some extra supplementation
100%.
to kind of speed up that process.
Yeah. So for me, man, like the term that I use is aggressive patience. Mm-hmm. and being patient and taking things, letting your training increase and evolve as your body is ready. It's easy to have, a good day and want to push farther, but nobody gets hurt when they feel bad.
Yeah.
So I tell all my guys, nobody gets hurt when they feel bad because you're careful. Mm-hmm. It's whenever you start to feel better that you might want to be tempted to push a little farther.
Push a little extra.
So being mindful of that and being mature with your training, like being, having that mindset where it's like, okay, I don't want to just think of today. Like I don't have to hit a big PR today. I want to just increase and improve and think of where I'm going to be in a year from now, 6 months from now, 2 years from now, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like even when I had it and you and I were talking and you and I talked through this whole process, but it's like I'm not thinking of anything until 2025.
Yeah, you got to be patient with it. We try to get back to it too early, and we could have some setbacks, which we don't want.
Easily.
And I think that's the biggest thing is patience. And I tell a lot of people, because I have quite a few, well, not a lot, but 3 or 4 people I've had that have injuries right now, or they just had a surgery and they're recovering, and it sucks. But you can either set yourself up to get better and be in the best position possible to even go into a growth phase or a cut, or you can sit there and get yourself and just regress the entire time.
Yeah.
You have those options. And I always think it's better to use that time as efficiently as possible, as wisely as possible, so you can come out better in the end.
Oh, absolutely.
So what I like to tell people to do is kind of set the program based on what you can do.
100%. Mm-hmm. And you had seen me, like when we would talk and everything through it, I was doing belt squats with my arm in a sling. Mm-hmm. I was doing anything that I could. I would work, whatever side was in a sling, I'd work the other side as best I could. Continue to stretch, continue to move. And I would do the routine things routinely. Like every day I'm stretching, every day I'm doing something. And I think too often when it comes to surgery, so many people think, well, the surgery fixes the problem. No, the surgery doesn't fix the problem. The surgery removes the roadblock that was in the way that you can now fix the problem. So it's a matter of doing that. It's a matter of doing those things that you're getting, the feedback you're getting from your surgeon, from your therapy team, from your coaches, whatever, and adhering to that plan.
Yeah.
Not getting, not trying to get ahead of yourself, but, progressing as you're able, and I think sometimes people see my recovery and yes, it was expedited because of my understanding of the body and my understanding of supplementation and the team that I had around me, yourself and the clinical labs team and my therapy team and my surgeons, everybody was, world class. And that helped me so much. But, every situation is going to be a little bit different. And, I was afforded, a situation where I have a great deal of knowledge on this subject, and it allowed me to progress at a little bit better rate. And also I had a lot of muscle tissue going into it, and I can't stress that enough. If you know you're going to go into this, trying to get in as best shape as possible going into it, that's the key, because you're not going to be able to work that as much afterward, and you're going to have atrophy. But also being mindful of your diet, because, you're building tissue with what you're eating. So trying to be mindful of your diet post, like, at no point in this did I lose abs.
Yeah.
Through this whole process, and it would have been easy to just kind of sit down and eat whatever, because you can definitely get in a bad spot mentally with this.
Well, I put all my people, when they go into any type of surgery, I have them set up for a recovery phase, and we usually do some kind of cut to kind of keep them lean.
100%.
And I like to use that time to get them in better shape.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a very motivating thing. I'm like, let's go and get you in shape. Like, for example, I had a bodybuilder who competed last year, and this dude's a go-getter. I know he's a workhorse, but he tore his MCL and ACL in August and still decided to go through with competing. He didn't want to tell me because he didn't want to quit.
Yeah.
He knew if he told me that I would be like, man, let's wrap it up. You got to recover. Well, he still competed. He probably could have done a lot better if he was fully healthy.
Sure.
But afterwards, he had to get a surgery.
Yeah.
He had to get that MCL and ACL repaired.
Yeah.
So what did we decide to do? We didn't decide to give up and quit or just eat food and try to grow still or anything like that. We stepped it back. He's actually cut himself down about 20, 25 pounds, gotten a good bit leaner, has his body in a good spot. So now that he's recovered, he's already back to, doing 315, 405 pound squats for reps.
Absolutely, yeah.
And now we can actually go ahead and go back into a growth phase slowly so he can go ahead and get started. But we also set a timeline, which I think is important, kind of have like a loose goal set in mind. And ours for him is like, 73 weeks away.
Yes.
Which that's a long ass time.
It is.
But it's also something we can work with. We're like, we know you're going to compete again. Our time is we want to do it in 73 weeks.
Yeah.
Let's use every single one of those weeks how we can.
Being realistic with that, like everybody wants everything right now, and sometimes we can get impatient, but I can't stress the importance of that patience when it comes to these sort of things, because 9 times out of 10, when you think you're ready, you're not, and as long when it's a big joint issue, and I've had knee surgery also. I tore my hamstring in a fight.
Yeah.
Ripped it off from the back of my knee, and I've got a big knot under my glute, like it rolled up. That was like a tournament style fight like many years ago. So I ended up fighting like 2 or 3 more times that day. And then a few weeks later, within, I think maybe a month, I'm still training, and had no idea. I'm a kid, and hip toss the guy, and my knee just fucking explodes.
Ugh.
I tore my ACL. I had no insurance at the time, so I had to just train and work and everything with a torn ACL, and lost a bunch of weight, and then finally got the ACL repaired. But anyway, being, as long as it takes to heal physically from some of that stuff, it takes about that time too to heal mentally and actually get confidence in that joint again. Especially big joints like, like a knee or, shoulder stuff like that.
You got a baby a little bit. You don't want to get too fast back into it because you could get worse. And you want to be able to do this for a long time. And I always tell people that, like, you want to be able to do what you love. And if you can't do that and you're hurting yourself further, you're setting yourself back.
You really are. And depression and all that stuff can really set in these times. So anything that you can do to, these small wins, okay, like I've progressed a little bit here, even like you said, getting in better shape.
Yeah.
Looking a little bit better at least, whatever the case may be, to help you with that mental side of it and not just get in a funk and not get down on yourself. That's huge too, man, because it's easy to do when you can't do what you're used to doing and what makes you happy. You really have to think of that long game, and you have to think of those months ahead and really try to stay focused.
Well, for me, kind of what I've gotten into, mostly because, our discussions, everything is I'm very preventive with everything I do. Like I want to make sure that I don't get injured. So a lot of my training and routine is based around making sure my recovery is good as well. So
100%.
I'm focusing on my sleep. I'm stretching after my training now. I'm doing active warm-ups before I train. Like we talked about genetic things in the past on this episode. And my dad actually, was in the Army for 26 years. Yeah. So he jumped on and off tanks. And then after he retired from the Army, he became a walking mail carrier. So he was walking 20, 25 miles a day.
The joints in his lower body have taken a beating.
So
over the years, huh?
he now has 2 knee replacements.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed real early that my knees were taking a beating just from training.
Yeah.
So what I actually did is I reinvented my entire training. I backed off because, I was getting upwards towards like 455 pounds on the squats, and I had to tone it back down because it was just hurting my joints.
Yeah.
So I always tell clients, I'm like, don't be afraid to back off and reset your training and go back and kind of work on things with proper mechanics and form, recovery, tissue work.
Absolutely.
All of that, because it all adds up and it'll make you be able to do this for much longer. So I dropped my squats back down to, 135 pounds to start, but I fixed all the mechanics.
Sure.
And I did that over time. My legs grew a lot better, a lot more efficiently. And now I'm able to do some of those weights again, but it feels a lot better and I don't have that pain, because before it was almost like I had a knife in the bottom of my patella. It was just horrible.
Yeah.
So getting that fixed and taking care of it early, like if you notice that your elbows are hurting, you notice your knees are hurting, address it immediately.
Exactly.
Don't let it continue to go. Like I was told years and years ago, people were like, go get massage work done, go see a chiropractor, go do this, go do that. And I'd be like, no, I don't need it. And then, 2 years later, it gets to the point where I was hurting so bad that I was like, I got to do something. And then I finally did those things and started practicing my recovery work. And I look back and I'm like, why was I not doing this?
Oh, absolutely.
How much further along could I have been in this 2 years if I would have just done something to prevent me from getting hurt like this?
Yeah. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And when we're younger, things, we can get by with some things more than we can when we get older. But if you will get in the habit of doing this as soon as possible, even when you're younger, you get in the habit of those, those warm ups, those stretching and the tissue work and everything that will, that you're putting up, you're putting away so much savings for later, like you're helping your body in the future, and it's going to pay dividends in the future with that. For me, a lot of times you'll have people and they don't realize you have a recovery budget and you can only recover from so much. So what I tell my guys is like, they say, well, I want to add in this, or I want to add something here. And it's like, okay, all right, well, what if you're buying groceries and you've only got $50 to spend? All right. If you got $50 worth of groceries in there and you want something else, we got to put something back. So when we start, we can't just add and add and add, especially if we're trying to recover also, like from a surgery, from an injury or sickness or anything. We only have so much of a budget of recovery. So when we continue to just add work and we don't have more hours in the day to sleep, we are eating, so much, we're doing these things. You need to really consider that, especially like sometimes when we're training and people will be training sick. I don't think they understand sometimes how you can compromise your immune system even. Whenever we're causing those acute tears in the muscle from lifting and training, our immune system is helping clean that up. White blood cells are cleaning up those damaged tissues. We're getting that out of our system through our kidneys and all that stuff. We're flushing that out. And if we're compromising our immune system with this hard training, that immune system has less and less capacity to help with other things or even fight off sickness. You can push to the point that you compromise your body, to the point that you are more, you're more apt to get sick. You have trouble fighting things off as well.
Yeah. My issues with people training sick too are like, first of all, it's detrimental to your training. Like 100%. You're not going to get any progress when you're sick.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, I'm like, you're not hardcore by going to the gym. And another thing is you're getting other people sick.
Yeah.
Which which isn't fun. You know, the other people are trying to go to the gym, they're trying to get progress as well. And when they go there and they're touching the same dumbbells you touched after you sat there and, you know, sneezed on your hand,
Right.
you're just spreading that sickness. So what I always recommend if you're sick is take that rest.
Absolutely.
If you are like a general nutrition client, eat when you're hungry, maybe have a little bit of soup or some crackers or something like that. But if you're in prep for a contest and you get sick, you can't eat off plan.
No.
And I have to reiterate that to people. I'm like, just because you're sick doesn't mean you can go eat McDonald's or Chinese food. You can't have that stuff that made you feel better when you were 7 years old.
And just because they say that they want you to stay hydrated doesn't mean you have to drink a gallon of Gatorade.
No, you know, they have.
You can take an electrolyte supplement.
Yes.
You can take, you know, you can do that, and you can drink water, and you can stay hydrated. You can keep your sodium up. You can do all these things without having a ton of excess calories and sugars.
Exactly. You don't need to go eat off plan. You can eat when you're hungry. You know, eat your meal whenever you feel hungry again. You don't have to sit there and try to get all meals in. I don't think you need to force them down.
No.
But I do think you need to eat your actual meals when you're hungry.
Sure.
And hydrate and rest.
Absolutely.
I think those are the most important things there. You know, put some water. You know, you can either take the Clinical Labs electrolyte replenisher or
That's a great one. Yeah.
Another one for a powder one I do is the Ultima electrolytes because they have a lot of different flavors. Like, you know, if you like lemon or raspberry.
Yep.
You can kind of do that.
The liquid IV.
Yeah, liquid IV is good. It does have a little bit of carbs, I believe.
does.
So I try to.
If you're in
Depends on the person.
if you're in
general
prep,
nutrition,
it's
go get a Pedialyte.
Yeah.
You know, they got low sugar Pedialytes. You don't need all the sugars though.
No.
I think the world has made people believe they need to consume like all this sugar to get better.
Yeah.
And feel better, all these calories to catch up.
Sprite. People want to drink Sprite when they're sick. You know?
Yeah, Sprite or ginger ale.
Yeah.
And I've had some and they get sick, and when I'm sick, I lose weight. I don't know about you.
Me too.
I lose weight because my appetites, but I'll have some people and they get sick, and I'm like, are you sick and you're up 4 pounds? And it'll always be something like, well, you know, I didn't eat all day, so I decided to go get 2 Big Macs and 2 large fries and an apple pie from McDonald's. And I was like, why did you think that was a good idea? That's not going to make you feel better.
Yeah. And how the fuck did you eat that and feel sick?
Yeah.
Like, how could you stand that on your stomach?
I think it's a lot of what people grew up doing.
Comfort.
Like whenever I was sick when I was younger, my mom's first thing was like chicken noodle soup, the Campbell's ones, and then it would be some saltine crackers.
Yeah.
And that was like what I ate. So I've noticed that's a lot of other people. Well, general nutrition client, if that's what you want to do, get a little bit of food in, that's fine. I don't care. I'm not going to sit there and yell at you. But if you're in prep for a contest and you're like, oh, man, I'm sick, I need to go eat this, I'm like, what's wrong with you? You're not.
Exactly. And I think so many people, especially if they're new to the sport, they don't understand. It's like once you clock in for prep, that's it.
Yeah.
Like you don't clock out. And anything that you do outside of the given plan and program is going to show on stage. You know, and sometimes it's just, it can come down to that. If you and a guy are really close and you start looking back and you're like, man, you know, if I hadn't have done this or I hadn't have done that, that would be a shitty feeling to have. It's like, you know, just keeping in mind the end goal, because now you're working towards something. It's not like if you're a general nutrition client, you're trying to get better health, trying to lose weight, all these things. And we've got some more wiggle room, and we don't have that, you know, that finish line on this particular date. But if you're in prep and you have that show date, like they're not going to move the show because you got sick. They're not going to move the show because you got a bad day.
They're not going to care when you step on stage and be like, oh, that guy got sick, you know.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, no, they don't take that into account.
Doesn't matter.
What your choices are, your personal choices are, no matter what happens to you, whatever obstacle you face, that shows up on stage when you get up there that day.
100%.
So what would you say is the best strategy? Say you're in contest prep, you know, you're 8 weeks out. You are throwing up and stuff's coming out both ways. What would be your strategy?
I mean, it's really as simple as we had just discussed. You know, resting, staying hydrated, and eating what food I could on my plan, trying to get my protein in. You know, for me, what I try to do in those situations is I try to at least get as much of my protein in as I'm able.
Yeah.
You know, and if I have to, like, I'll try to eat the protein first, and then if I'm too full to have the carbs after, or I don't feel like it, then maybe I don't have as much of those. Yeah. But I'm not burning as much at that time. So
my strategy was always like I would try to get the protein in, so it'd either be like chicken breast. If I had to do a whey isolate shake, I would. Yeah. As far as the carbs, sometimes with a white rice, that in my opinion is really easy to get down because it's flavorless.
It is.
But what I would do if it was so little and it was something I could just like eat is I get the plain Quaker white rice cakes, and I do equivalent of that of white rice. So, if I need half cup of rice, 75 grams of rice, carbs, I'm going to do 3 white rice cakes. It's about equivalent. Yeah. And I'm just going to eat that because it's easy for me to put down and digest.
Yes.
So with me, when I'm sick, I feel like it's just I need more salt and less flavor.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'll just kind of eat my food plain, get it down. And then normally, if you go ahead and just follow your plan, you're actually going to recover faster.
You're going to get the nutrients you need to recover.
You're going to get your nutrients you need faster. If you focus on resting and try to just sleep, you're going to recover quicker. If you're sitting there trying to push yourself in the ground, still going to do 60 minutes of cardio, and then on top of that train, and you're probably going to set yourself back a little bit.
You really will. And again, like that's the thing is that recovery. You need that recovery to heal. You need that recovery to get over your sickness. But continuing to eat these one ingredient foods, these good foods that you're on that program, that's how your body's going to get the nutrients it needs to help maintain that tissue as best you can, and then to help get over that sickness.
My biggest word of advice: if you get sick in contest prep or general nutrition, message your coach.
Absolutely.
Let them know that you're sick. They want to know because they can tell you what they would do and they want you to do.
Yeah.
Don't try to take it upon yourself. That's never a good idea, because chances are you're going to make some rash decisions.
Yeah.
Because you don't feel good.
And a word of advice for coaches also is you are not a doctor. And if they feel like they need to see a doctor, or you feel like they need to see a doctor, suggesting that.
Absolutely.
If you're an athlete and you feel like you need to see a doctor and your coach tells you not to, that should be a red flag.
Oh, absolutely. I think if you're feeling sick, I always tell people you need to go to the emergency room. It's
see a doctor
first and foremost. Be sure and be cautious,
and then discuss that with your coach afterward. Okay, well, I went to the doctor. This is what happened. Like I'll have somebody say they get sick and they go, okay, well, now they're on antibiotics. So I can give them a heads up on what may occur with their digestion.
Yeah. Take a probiotic in that case.
There you go. Exactly. Take a probiotic, or, add in some sort of, raw fermented foods or something to assist with that if we can. But, that's the thing is again, giving feedback to your coach. And if you have a coach who is educated on the matter, he'll be able to help you kind of avoid certain pitfalls that may come from certain medications, or even what to do moving forward, especially if you're in prep.
Yeah, because I want you to get back on track as soon as possible.
Yeah, we have.
So if you're on an antibiotic, typically I'm recommending the probiotic I recommend is New Ethics Flora Protect. I think that's a really good one. You want to get one that's cold capsule that's kept inside of a fridge.
That's just it. Yep.
Yeah. You don't want it to be dead.
Need to be refrigerated.
Yeah, exactly. So whenever we're talking about probiotics, we don't mean the probiotic drinks that you buy at Whole Foods.
No, not a yogurt drink, a smoothie that you're going to get a ton of calories.
We're talking about a cold capsuled probiotic.
Correct.
That is what you need, and it's taken first thing in the morning upon waking, fasted. That's going to go ahead and replenish that healthy gut bacteria.
Yeah.
Because the antibiotic, what people don't know, is it's killing all bacteria.
Good and bad bacteria.
Good and bad bacteria.
Yep.
So if you don't have that good bacteria, you're not going to be able to digest your foods.
Yes.
You're going to notice a lot of issues with digestion, possibly constipation, diarrhea. And if we get on top of that, we can make sure you move forward and progress instead of having some kind of stall.
Absolutely. And like you'll even see like some people who have encountered like, a lot of illness or whatever and have been on like, chronic usage of antibiotics can have a lot of really bad stomach issues.
Yeah.
And a lot of digestive issues just from prolonged use of antibiotics. So they can be very, very hard on your stomach. So
they can. But if you are getting into it quickly, trying to address it fast, I think you can get ahead of it.
Very much.
It's just, I don't think a lot of people will know to tell their coach whenever they're using antibiotics. They just don't think it's a big deal because, when we're younger, using them, it's just kind of we had to use them.
Yeah. And on my check-in with my clients, I have, a section on there where it's like any new, medications or anything added, anything, whatever, just so that I can kind of keep up with that and give them advice to avoid these issues.
Yes.
Because it is very important because you don't know what you don't know. Well, and if you're doing these things and you start to feel, you tell me, well, my digestion is messed up. Well, I'm going to start looking at what I know you're doing. And if I don't know you're taking an antibiotic, then I don't know to address that.
And a lot of these medications, too, can hold water weight.
100%.
Things like that. So it could be as simple as just a medication needs to run its course.
Absolutely.
You'll drop down weight.
Yeah.
You may not need to push more cardio or less food.
Say you're sick and they put you on a steroid pack and you're holding a little bit of water retention from it. Like, that's not an issue. That's not fat. That's just water retention. So that'll subside.
Yeah.
And it'll subside quicker if you're getting adequate amounts of water in also, and your nutrition's on point.
Yeah. So if you get sick, I always say rest, recover, hydrate. I'd say that's what you need to do.
It is 100%. And then as far as, going back to the injuries and stuff, it's very similar there too, being, doing what you can do until you can do more, and listening to your body, dealing with any kind of post-surgery time period or injuries and so on, your body's in a very, sensitive state. You can't push too hard with those things, but you want to do what you can. And sometimes, not knowing, you might push too far or you might not push far enough. So listening to the team around you, the team of professionals around you, your therapist, your surgeon, so on and so on. But treating that the same way, in that recovery is going to be paramount.
Yeah.
Every time.
So our last topic of the day, and one I think we should talk about, because I get a lot of questions about what to do whenever there's like a family event or like a holiday.
Yes.
Or a vacation of the sort.
Yeah.
What can you do to stay on track but still enjoy those times with family?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people overthink this.
They do.
It stresses them out way too much. And for me, it really depends on what the current goal is.
100%.
So, for example, if you're a general nutrition client, what do we have tomorrow coming up?
Yep.
Easter Sunday. Now, you guys will be listening to this after Easter Sunday, but this will give you some tips for your next holiday
in
event.
The future. Yeah.
Yeah. So I tell all my general nutrition clients, replace a meal and just enjoy it with family.
Yeah.
If you have multiple Easters to go to, replace 2 meals, enjoy it with family.
That's it.
Control portion sizes a little bit, but overall, enjoy your grandma's cooking.
Yeah.
Go visit with your mom and dad. Take your kids out for Easter egg hunts. Eat a piece of candy. You're not going to hurt yourself.
No. And it's the same thing with vacation. Like whenever I have a client and they're going on vacation, sometimes I'll, like, say I've got a meeting, just say they're eating 5 meals a day. Mm-hmm. I might tell them to reduce to 3 or 4 so that they can have a little bit larger portions in their meal, or they might be eating something different. So that might be more calories. So less meals that way is going to keep them from going over too bad. Something I like to do is having, let's just say I go eat with my mother tomorrow for Easter, which I plan to. So for breakfast, I might eat lighter than normal. Mm-hmm. So what I'm doing is I'm putting money in the bank for later.
Yeah, because you're going to eat a little bit more calories.
More calories. So that I don't go over. So instead of, like, say I know I might have more carbs or whatever it is, say I reduce them. Say in the morning I just have eggs. Mm-hmm. I just have eggs with some spinach, or eggs with some vegetables, whatever. And then that's going to allow me to have more carbs later. That's going to allow me to have more calories later. And then let's just say I've got, I'm going to replace that with a normal meal. And let's just say I've got another thing that I got to go to. Well, let's just say I maybe even reduce the number of meals that day. So instead of eating 6, maybe I eat 4 because I know that I had a little bit more than normal.
Yeah.
So you don't, sometimes you don't necessarily have to be so meticulous with that. It's just not overeating, not overindulging, just adjusting a little bit.
Yeah. Just adjust. Like you said, like I will do pretty much the same thing. I'll cut some carbs out of other meals or cut some fats out of other meals. And then I'll go ahead and just not track my calories for the meals I eat with family.
Yeah, that's kind of what I do too.
I'm not going to overeat, but I'm going to go ahead and indulge. If my mom made a pie, I'm going to eat a piece of pie.
Sure.
I'm going to eat some ham or some turkey or whatever's on the menu and some potatoes. And I'm going to be good to go. I don't overthink it.
No.
I think my issue in the past, and I know a lot of people have the same thing, is they will avoid these family events because they think they're going to like lose progress. Well, if you're not in prep for a competition, I really encourage people to enjoy those moments.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to look back and be like, why didn't I spend time with my mom on Easter when I could have done that? And I'm not in competition prep.
Absolutely.
You're going to regret that. I'm going to be honest.
And there is a flip side to this coin, and I will address this real quick too. If you are in prep, something that I had to get in my mind, and I think any successful competitor will have to agree with this, is these events don't necessarily for you have to be revolved around food. Mm-hmm. Like, make it about your family, make it about your loved ones. Like, you can take your meals. If you're in prep, I mean, obviously you have to be on point. That doesn't mean you can't attend and you can't.
Yeah, you can. You can still hang out with them. You can still
hang out with them. You can just eat your meal.
You can eat your own meal.
Yeah, you
bring your own meal.
Yeah.
Spend time with your family.
Exactly.
it's not going to be a big deal. And if they respect you enough, they're going to go ahead and support you as long as you explain it to them. Just be like, hey, I can't do this right now. We'll go out to eat together after I'm done.
That's it.
And that's a lot of what I do with my family, because I had to miss quite a few events last year. I had to miss my mom's birthday dinner, which I didn't want to do, but it was like a few weeks out and I was like, man, I can't right now. But after I was done, we tried to make plans to go out to eat together.
Absolutely.
And we did so. And then for my dad's birthday, was last year in August, and I wasn't completely like, I think I was like still like 8-9 weeks out. I went to the place, but I ate my meal beforehand, and I drank a Diet Coke while I sat there and spent time with my family.
Yeah, I'll eat before I go in, and then I'll just order a diet soda.
Yeah, I ordered a diet soda, and I had lively conversation. I hung out with my nephew. I had a good time, and nobody complained about it because I was there.
Sure,
it wasn't a big deal.
No,
so you can still be around all these things, and I encourage it.
Mm-hmm.
Hang out with your family. It doesn't have to be about food. I think our culture is centered everything around.
It is.
All social interactions are
every time. If you
got to eat, and
you haven't seen somebody in there, it's like, man, we should get something to eat. Or you have a bad day, mom makes you some food, or you did good at your ball game, dad takes you for pizza. Yeah. Everything's revolved around food. But when you kind of switch that thinking process of it to like, okay, instead of the food, I'm going to forget what I ate, but I'm going to remember the time with these people. I'm going to remember the time I spent with my mother, my loved ones, and so on. So, making it more centered around the people you're spending the time with than just the food you're eating.
So a few things I try to do in prep scenarios that I think really help, or if you're trying to really reach a goal and, spend time with friends or family without the food involved. Game nights are great.
Yeah.
Go see a movie, go bowling, go to a sporting event or a concert. There's, you can still go on like a bike ride or a walk. There's a lot of stuff you can do that doesn't involve food.
Yeah.
And I encourage people to still go out with their friends. Like I have a girl in prep, and I'm trying to teach her that right now, and she's doing an excellent job at it. But she still goes out with her friends and they go drinking. Mm-hmm. Well, she doesn't stay out late. She'll stay out until about 11 or 12, and they respect that, but she still goes out. And, she'll bring her water, and she'll drink her water, and she'll have social interactions with them, or she might drink a little energy drink.
Yeah.
Then she goes home. You don't have to go pound 10 shots of tequila.
It's like, no, I'm in prep. I can't drink. So just drugs for me, please.
Yeah.
That's
I know a lot of people that don't do that.
Just drugs.
Just drugs for me.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, like we said, there's a lot of ways to enjoy time with family, enjoy these moments, and get around it while still getting progress.
It is. And it's, being able to, get a better grasp on your relationship with food is where that starts.
Yeah.
Understanding that, okay, I'm in prep. This isn't forever. Once I get out of this, I'm fine. Or if you're I've seen so many people too, even with lifestyle clients, once they start doing well, they think that everything has to be a certain way. And I've seen them even be afraid to even use like low calorie condiments and everything. And then you'll push to the point that, I've seen them break and then just binge eat from it. And it's like, if you were to just have enjoyed a little bit here and there and stayed inside the guidelines I gave you, well, you can avoid that.
One thing I do, so whenever new clients start with me that I know are more general nutrition based, or even ones that are going to do a contest in the future, I make people send me all their meals and pictures.
Sure.
And it's one thing I can verify that everything they're eating is correct, and we can kind of make sure like measurements are right, they're eating the right meats, etc. But also, people cook their food so boring. And it'll be like a plain chicken breast and nothing on it. And I'm like, hey, then I can give some valuable feedback and be like, hey, if you cook that chicken with this seasoning and use this sauce, so much easier to eat. And all of a sudden they're like, I didn't know I could do that.
Finding ways to make it palatable without breaking your diet is key for doing it for the long run.
Yes. Like there's a lot of different sauces you can use. GU sugar-free barbecue sauce. I like to use Boar's Head honey mustard, Frank's Red Hot Buffalo wing sauce.
The Frank's Red Hot Buffalo wing sauce is actually very low calorie, and it's really, really good.
And it's a great one. Like one thing I'll do is I'll cut my chicken into cubes, and then I'll put some garlic seasoning on it, some garlic salt, maybe some Lowry seasoning salt, and then I'll kind of douse it in that Frank's, and then I'll air fry it.
Oh, yeah.
And it kind of makes like boneless wings.
Yeah.
And I've had people do that with a little bit of the Bolt House Farms Ranch, like one serving of that, which is like 30 calories.
Yeah.
And you got that and you throw in some celery and some carrots in there, make that into a meal.
Yeah.
Bam. That's great for Super Bowl party or anything like that.
Oh, for sure. The G Hughes stuff is pretty good. Some of them are mayo based, so you want to kind of look at the label.
Yeah.
Chicken sauce.
I've had people make that mistake before because it says zero sugar. That doesn't mean zero fat.
Correct.
Yeah.
And like some stuff, you want to keep in mind, some stuff is labeled a certain way. Mm-hmm. So like one that I've seen, I can't tell you how many times, is the I can't believe it's not butter spray.
Oh, dude.
And it says 0 calories per serving.
It's still butter.
It's still butter. and it's still butter. So if you put 10 sprays on there, it's going to add up. It's the serving size is so damn minuscule that it's so small that it's a decimal point.
Yeah.
So,
but 5 sprays I think is equivalent to 1 gram of fat.
Sure.
It might be 3 sprays.
And then think of how many people use. They cover it.
You think about you use 15 sprays, you got 5 grams of fat, 45 calories right there.
Yeah.
You do that for 5 meals a day.
It adds up.
250 calories real quick. That's where a lot of people, I have to go back and kind of monitor everything they're doing.
Yeah.
Because I had a guy and he wasn't getting results. And I was like, listen, man, I know what's supposed to happen here. There's something we got to clean up.
Mm-hmm.
And he went back that week and he looked at everything. And I actually mentioned, I was like, send me all your meals, send me all the sauces you're using, send me all the seasonings. I want to look at everything.
Yeah.
Because I want to get you results. This is not to accuse you of cheating, but I was like, I need to see what's
And sometimes you don't know that you're cheating. Like, it's not that they're intentionally doing it. If they don't know, they don't think about it.
Well, it made him do kind of a checklist on everything he was doing.
Yeah.
And he looked at it and he was like, I see what I'm doing wrong now, man. He was like, some of these sauces I'm using, I'm adding an extra like 60 calories, and some of these seasonings and the gum I'm chewing and all this stuff. He's like, I didn't realize I'm adding like an extra like 300, 400 calories a day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that'll do it, man. He's like, I cleaned it up. And sure enough, that week he checks in and he's down 3 pounds.
Oh, absolutely.
And I was like, I told you, man, it's simple as that. It's always something. We know the deficit's going to work, especially if you're a healthy human. If you're not losing weight, chances are you're over consuming. Yeah. So like, what's another thing that people kind of overdo on? Real quick, I'm trying to think of some other ones.
So I think sometimes people have trouble getting their water in, and sometimes if you add just a little bit of flavor, it can help you get the water in. I'll add lemon and some stevia to sweeten mine.
Yeah.
Or sometimes even, a drink pack here and there is not going to hurt anything.
Yeah. But if you over consume them, like I like to drink majority of my water plain.
You should, yes.
But I do like 40 ounces of my water, and I'll do like a Mio, like lemon-based flavor.
That's what I was talking about.
Yep. Mio's pretty good. Also a cool drink. If anybody likes to drink alcohol, which I know a lot of people listening probably do. I'm not a big alcohol drinker, but one drink I do for staying lean in off season, if I do have to go out and have a few drinks, is I'll do vodka soda. So vodka, like Tito's or anything like that, some soda water, and then I add Mio to it.
Yeah.
And you can flavor it however you want to, because they got fruit punch, they've got tangerine, lemonade, and you can make it flavored like that. Very easy to drink, and probably one of the lower calorie choices you can go to.
So what I explain to my clients a lot of times is the lowest calorie as far as alcohol consumption is going to be clear liquors. Mm-hmm. Gin, vodka, these things. They're going to be the lowest calorie. All right, darker liquors have a bit more, and then when you start consuming mixed drinks and beer and so on, then you're going to get into a lot more even. But, like you said there, mixing, vodka with a low-calorie, non-calorie, mixer in it, that's always going to be the lowest calorie, and the way to go with that. So I'll do Tito's with like even, like a diet ginger ale. Yeah. And make like a mule that way.
Yeah.
So that kind of works out similar.
Yeah.
Like
there's a lot of low calorie drinks, low calorie seasonings. And I'd like to say this. If you're listening to this podcast, message either me or Eli, and we'll send you a picture of everything we use.
Absolutely.
And I think that really will go miles with some people trying to get results. Because once you learn some of these seasonings exist and you realize
it helps
what you can
so
make
much.
this food taste like, and it's healthy, but it's delicious, man, results come so fast.
Yeah, and it's easier to stick to. Like, some people think that they have to, well, I couldn't eat that way. I couldn't eat this way. I couldn't eat the same thing every day. You don't have to eat the same thing every day and day. I give my clients choices, and once you learn how to use those choices and then even season those differently, you don't have to eat the same thing at all.
Every meal can taste different.
It can.
You can make one meal into like a teriyaki chicken bowl, You can make your next meal into like some honey mustard based chicken.
Whatever you like.
You can make the next one into, trying to think, like taco seasoning.
I use that a taco bowl. Put a little pico in it.
Yeah. A little bit of salsa. There you go.
Boom.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it for today, my man.
That's it.
Yeah. It was a good one. Like I said, you guys have any questions about anything we discussed today, feel free to reach out. I'm on Instagram at Tyler_Bedson.
Yeah. If you have any suggestions or questions you guys might have, you can reach us on Instagram. Mine is EliCoffey_.
This has been Bedson and Coffee Unfiltered. Thank you guys for listening.
Make sure to go follow us on social media.